Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe, and I'm a sales and marketing coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. I work with health, life, and mindset coaches and online service-based business owners to help them get more sales, shift their time to the client-generating activities instead of just the busy work, and overcome that social media overwhelm. Let's get into the show. If you're ready to take on your next paying clients, I have good news. My free 4 Basics of Client Attraction and How to Stand Out class is live at haileyrowe.com/client-attraction. In the class, you're going to learn the top 2 traits I recommend for most coaches and entrepreneurs if they really want to turn this into a career. You're going to learn how you can build demand for your services and stop getting crickets on your posts. You're going to learn the sales roadmap I used to improve my sales conversion rate and help my clients do the same. And you're going to learn so much more. So go to haileyrowe.com/client-attraction and get your copy of the class today. Hey, today I'm so excited to be chatting with you a little bit about how to simplify your sales by using the 4 steps that I like to call the overwhelm steps. They're going to help you get rid of the overwhelm and actually stay focused on the client generating activities. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm hoping that you can see it and we will get into it. It's going to be 25 minutes about. So if you have any questions during, feel free to share. But this will give you a quick hit of inspiration and a process you can use next time overwhelm gets in the way, and to also help you plan what sales generating steps are going to focus on this month or in July if you're wanting to start fresh as we're entering July soon. So our agenda today is to talk about 4 steps to not let overwhelm run your business. We're going to talk about a blueprint you can use to focus on the sales generating steps and not just the busy work. And we're going to talk about some ways to stay consistent with your sales and marketing process using some of the things that we will go over. So let's get started with the 4 steps to not overwhelm yourself in business. The first step is to do a big brain dump. So anytime we're trying to work through overwhelm, we first just want to make ourselves aware of everything on our mind. So my first suggestion to you is to just think about the month ahead and think about all the things that you want to accomplish and do, and what you want to be able to look at the end of the month and say, I got this done, or this was something that was on my list for a while and I really want to do this. Put it down and just do a brain dump. And it can also be ideas of things that you want to do that may not be the best use of your time, but still get it down on paper just so your mind can rest and it's not holding on to all these different distracting things. You want to get it down on paper. So for me, I actually do this in Trello, which is a project management tool. I have different categories, and one of my categories that I put is like a later list or a someday list. And I do my big brain dump of everything I want to do this month. And then sometimes I move stuff to that column because not everything that I write down is relevant right now, but at least I got it out of my head and documented. So that's the first step, is get it all documented. And then I want you to actually look at what's your top goal for your business for the month. Pick 1 or 2 main top goals. And for many of you, it might be like getting your next client or getting your next X dollars in sales or something like that. And we're going to break that down even further. But whatever it is, look at your goal and ask yourself, what kind of costs, feelings, or changes might I have to experience to make room for this goal? Because we really want to consider, is it something you still want to do, knowing that you're going to have to make some changes with your time? There's probably going to be some costs involved, either emotionally or things outside of your comfort zone, or things you might have to learn that you've never learned before. So do consider, what kind of costs, feelings, or changes are you willing to experience to make room for this goal? Not just looking at the fun of it and how fun it would be. We also have to look at the other side too and consider that. And I also want you to look at your brain dump list and ask yourself, what kind of obstacles do you foresee getting in the way, or that you could see arising from your list of ideas or things that you want to get done? And the last thing to consider when you're brain dumping is what team members, skills, assets, and or research might you need if you choose to pursue the ideas on your list. So sometimes we put down, I want to make my next XYZ dollars in revenue this month, but we don't look at, okay, but what kind of things might I need to get in place, research I might need to do, help I might need to hire, things like that to get there. So once you've done this little bit of a brain dump, I want you to ask yourself, is the main goal that I'm picking for the next month, is it aligned with what I really want? Or is it something I feel pressure or that someone else is telling me I need to do? Because one of the big things that I work on with clients is making sure they have their own business protocol that matches their energy levels, their goals. And this is actually a screenshot from one of my clients who shared that she felt like she had a plan that fits her goals and her energy levels. And that is what I want for you. I want it to feel aligned. I want it to be something that you want to do, not something someone's enforcing on you. And now that we know that top target for the month, and we've considered what might have to shift within ourselves or with feelings we have to be willing to feel or costs we might have to put in, now we need to actually turn it into a plan. So we're going to start doing that in step 2. And step 2 is focused on solidifying what we call your now commitments, meaning everything you brain dumped is not going to make it to the now commitments. We can't do everything at once. You can have it all, but not all at once, as they say, right? So let's go ahead and determine based on the top idea on your list. Well, let me ask you this. So you have your top goal, and maybe it's to get more clients or sales. And from there, ask yourself, looking at your list, which of your ideas of things you want to do this month do you believe will yield the most sales results or get you set up for sales? And maybe you wrote down like, I want to be on podcasts, I want to form partnerships, I want to form a referral program, I want to go to a networking group. Like maybe you wrote down all these ideas, but I want you to look through it and just say, okay, which one of these do I think, based on past evidence or what I know about business, which one do I think will get me the most set up for sales? And if you're not sure, just take a guess. That's okay. Take an educated guess. And then I want you to ask yourself, okay, if I'm going to pursue this partnerships, or if I'm going to pursue being on podcasts, or if I'm actually going to start joining networking groups, okay, what do I have to be willing to put on the back burner to make room for this top idea and turn it into an actionable commitment? Because a lot of times the reason why we get overwhelmed is we just add more to our plate without considering what are we going to put on the back burner, give ourselves permission to kind of not do so well with for a short period of time to make room to be doing really well with this one area or this one thing, right? So when you're making what we call a now commitment, we do want it to be actionable. And so I am going to bring up SMART goals. I know it's a cheesy topic, but we do want your now commitments to be specific, so clear and precise. We want them to be measurable, meaning able to be tracked, something you can look at every week and say, yes, I did this, and yes, I'm moving towards my target. We want it to be attainable, so within the scope, meaning start with where you're at. Look at, if you have only had one client, okay, maybe the goal needs to be to get one more client or to get 2 clients within a month or something like that. So within the scope versus if you're already at 10K per month or something like that, maybe your goal can be a little more ambitious, right? We want it to be relevant to your company. So relevant to how you want to grow and how you want to succeed. And we want it to be time-based, meaning something that is not just a vague, no end date in mind, etc. Okay, so now let's go ahead and really solidify our now commitments. So here are some examples. These would not be ones you'd commit to all 3 at once. It's just, I'm showing you some options. So if your goal is to, form 3 partnerships this month with referral partners or get in front of 3 big audiences this month to speak or do a guest training for, something like that, well, then your now commitment might be to start 30 new conversations per week with potential partners. And you'd have to form, how you're going to start those conversations, how you're going to make it a win-win for the partnership, things like that. Or if you wanted to get on podcasts, it might look like starting 30 new conversations with podcast hosts. Or if you want to get more clients, maybe you are doing, a form of like in your posts, having a freebie and posting about your freebie and then furthering the relationship, seeing how it goes for them, that kind of thing, leading to your discovery call, etc. So that might be an example. Another example of a now commitment could be offer my freebie to 5 people per week. So maybe you have a lead magnet and you want to grow your email list, but you've never actually talked about your freebie, or you've never actually invited anyone to it, or you've never shared it anywhere, or you just have it sticking on your website. Well, look for opportunities to actually talk about it. Maybe there's, someone who is posting in a forum that they need help with blank, and you can reference your freebie and it's on Reddit or something, and you saw somebody's question come in and you have a freebie for that. Or maybe you've never actually announced it in a social media post, or maybe you haven't told your current followers that they get a free gift for being one of your followers and it is your freebie or something like that. So offer your freebie. And then another example could be attending 2 networking events per quarter and make at least 2 connections at each. So notice how all of these now commitments, they have a number involved, so it's tangible. You know what you're actually doing. You could say yes or no, I did this, that kind of thing. And it's time bound because we're saying per week. So one of my clients, when she was able to actually extrapolate from all of her ideas to finally like narrowing down an actual weekly business protocol with now commitments, she was able to make more in a month than she had in the past year alone. So that is the power of prioritizing. That is the power of breaking things down. And that's why now we're going to move into step 3, which is determining your systems. So once you know your now commitments, we have to also ask ourselves, okay, in order to actually follow through on those commitments, what kind of weekly systems do we need to help you honor your number one commitment this month? So if your number one commitment is those 30 conversations, or 5 people per week for the freebie, or whatever it is, what kind of systems do we need in place? What do we need to set up to make sure that happens? And the way you can think about systems, because I think a lot of people use the word systems, but it's overused, is I want you to think about like a boat, and your destination is the goal. More sales or more clients might be the destination, and the boat is what gets you there, meaning the boat is like your now commitment, the thing that's going to move you forward. And then the oars, the little oars you see in this picture, are what systems help you actually follow through on the now commitment. What do you have to set up to make sure that you actually do it? So an example would be a conversation, like if you had a conversation goal that we just talked about, maybe 30, pitches for partnerships or something like that, you might have a process or a system for how you research. Maybe every week on Mondays, you do research on potential partners, you put them in a spreadsheet or something like that. Then maybe you filter which ones you prioritize based on a certain criteria you have about audience size or things like that. And then maybe you connect, you have a system for where you connect most. You use LinkedIn for that or something like that. So again, systems are just, how are you going to follow through on this? Make it easier, have a process. Freebie, if you had a freebie goal to talk about your lead magnet or grow your email list, you might have a system of doing regular 2-step posts, which I'll show you an example of what I mean by that in a minute, or some kind of captivating invite script that you use about your freebie, or something where you identify a criteria for when would it make sense for me to offer my freebie to people, and use that to decide, when to share it and when to not. So that I want you to be thinking about, based on whatever now commitment you have, what could be the systems that set you up for success. And if you're not sure, obviously this is something I help with, is building out your client attraction processes and what makes sense for you. So feel free to reach out if you're confused about that, for a free client attraction consult. But here's an example of my system that I use. So overall, on any marketing platform, there's going to be pretty much 4 steps to client attraction, which are connect, engage, pre-offer, and sell. And what I mean by that is we first have to be visible in front of our ideal clients or partners. So we have to connect with them, right? So that might look like you having a profile on a social media platform, and commenting, where you shared something meaningful somewhere in a post or something like that. You're visible. So basically you have to be visible. Engage, what I mean by that is you have to get clear on what's useful for your ideal clients by asking intentional questions. So to engage people, you have to be curious. You have to ask, what would be useful for them, or what are they trying to solve, or what kind of content do they want to see, things like that. Pre-offer is when you share your freebie or provide a quick win up front. So you don't want to, in order to offer a freebie, we have to know it'd be useful to someone. So if somebody says that what would be useful for them is they want to get more speaking gigs, and I have a free speaking pitch guide, well, then that would make sense. That provides them a quick win up front, and that would be a good pre-offer. And then the sales phase is when you say, how did that go for you? And do you want to go deeper? And does it make sense? You invite, we don't just force, to, talk more about options moving forward to help you, blah, 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 right? So you might, in your sales phase, do discovery calls, but sometimes people just do like a sales page or have a webinar, and then they sell at the end, or things like that. There's several different ways you can sell. You can sell in an email funnel, but a lot of my clients do discovery calls because they want to see if someone's a fit, and they do, work with them privately or things like that, or in a group setting. So here, when I was saying earlier that we have to figure out your systems, one system you could follow is the 4 steps of client attraction. But also, if you are trying to grow your email list, I mentioned maybe you have a system of doing regular 2-step posts. So what a 2-step post is you would share, if you guys have seen on Facebook, they have those color background posts. And so you could do that there. You could also do it on other platforms, but typically Facebook is where you'll see this, where you will ask, like, I have a free guide sharing my top 10 tips to crush your Facebook organic growth. Want it? Drop a yes below. And that's what I mean by 2 steps. There's here's what the thing is, and drop a yes if you want it. And if they say yes, you'd send the freebie, that kind of thing. So that's one way to get the word out. Like literally, there's so many different ways, but I'm just giving you a small, tiny micro example. And so what I want you to think about is, how can you generate curiosity about your freebie if that's the thing that you're really focused on? And can you create a 2-step post, meaning like, can you take one piece of your freebie and tease it? Like, example, with this training I'm doing, I could say, want to know the 4 ways to reduce overwhelm and simplify your sales? Comment yes for my free class or something like that. So bringing it home here, we have to decide what are your systems, and we have to remember that if they fail, meaning if you're testing something out and you have to tweak it or refine it or try it a couple different ways, it's not that you failed. It's just that we have to improve your systems. And I love this James Clear quote that says, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So keep that in mind. Don't make it mean anything personal. If you have to try a couple different processes or systems to figure things out, that's totally normal. And now we have to move to step 4. This is the most exciting step. This is where we actually take your now commitments and your system ideas that you've come up with and turn it into a plan for your week. So here's what I want you to do. Refer back to your brain dump list from step 1. Add other responsibilities or personal to-dos to your brain dump, meaning if you missed anything on a personal level, like if you were just doing this for business purposes, now go back and add, okay, well, other things I need to do this month is, I have that birthday party I got to get a gift for. I have to XYZ, what else you got to do? And then we're going to organize. So we're going to take your brain dump list and we're going to break it down into some different categories. So you're going to have your weekly basics or systems. And what I mean by that is you might have, like, for example, under your weekly basics or systems list, you might put, do my, 2-step posts of the week, or, research partners and do my 30 connections or whatever it is. So your weekly basics or systems. Then we also need to write and those would be things that are recurring, like you do them every week, right? Then you'd also have your top priority tasks aligned with your number one commitment. So if your number one goal or commitment was XYZ number of sales or something like that, determine your top priority tasks aligned with that. Make sure those are under the top priority tasks list. Then we have the moderately important tasks list. And that's just things that would be nice to do this week and get done, but it's not the end of the world. If they don't, they need to be done kind of soon, but not like today. There's no consequences if I don't do it this week, that kind of thing. And then there's the someday tasks, which is basically things that would be nice, but they do not, there's absolutely zero. Like, this is not the be all end all if these things get done. They're just kind of things I want to do. So you have that list, and I'm going to show you an example of weekly basics as well. So one time my client, this is how my business protocols process was born. But one time we created this thing for her where it was like, okay, what is your actual not to-do list? Like, some of her weekly basics where she wanted to go scroll free because she would get sidetracked on social media. And rather than creating content, she'd just be looking through content. So one of her actual weekly basics was being scroll free. She wanted to write her goals in present tense every day to keep them front of mind. She'd had her certain number of connections she would send for relationship building and partnerships. She would mention on what she did on social media at least, 1 to 2 times a week. She had content that like a content protocol, like once a week she's going to share a testimonial, once a week she's going to share a conversation starter, once a week she's going to share her lead magnet, things like that. And then number of pre-offers, meaning how many times she brought up her freebie, number of offers she made, meaning on her discovery calls, how many got to the point where she was able to make an offer, and then her client support. So this was an example of some of her weekly basics that she wanted to keep front of mind, that she wanted to track, that kind of thing. And when you are breaking down your list and breaking down your top priority tasks, your moderate priority tasks, I want to make sure that you use a criteria to determine, am I setting myself up for success here, or am I giving myself projects that are like setting myself up to fail because they're so vague or they're so big that of course I'm never going to check it off, right? So make sure that your tasks are listed as just one task. So we're not saying like, if we're saying send podcast pitches, that's a big project, meaning we have to find the host, we have to put together a pitch, we have to send it, we may have a follow-up process. So all those would be separate tasks. So make sure it's one task, make sure it produces an end result, meaning it's like, rather than just say website, well, what do you mean with your website? Are you finishing the homepage of the website? Are you writing the about section? What does that look like? It should be something that can be done in 30 minutes or less. So if it's some kind of project that looks like it's going to take you 4 hours, try to break it down more to set yourself up for success with that. And then the other thing is you want to be able to answer yes or no if you did it or not. So let's go through some examples. An example of a task that's broken down enough and is good is write website about section, versus a bad task would just be finish website, right? A good task could be send 2 podcast pitches to so-and-so and so-and-so. Versus a bad task is just writing podcast pitches. We don't know how many, we don't know to who, all of that. A good task could be research 5 podcasts within my niche on Apple Podcasts, because maybe you were going to do some podcast pitches. A bad task would be just find podcasts, right? It's not specific. So look through your tasks, make sure they're correct, prioritized, make sure they're broken down enough. And now it's time to actually plan your day. And you will get really good at this process with practice. It'll take you maybe longer the first time you do it, but this is how a lot of my clients and myself plan our day. And I think that it might come in handy for you. Now, if you have a process that works for you, or you have a planner you love or something like that, more power to you. But what helps me is first, I look at my weekly list and all the different categories, and I take from it, what is my wish list for today? What would I just love to do today? And I write down all the things, including my top priority goal tasks, my, things I'd like to do today, etc. And then you also want to add to that, what are your obligations? What are the things you have to do today? Maybe you have to go to meetings 12 to 4, or you have to drive your kids to school at 9 a.m. or whatever it is. So write those down. And then we need to combine our list. So I'm going to explain how this works. So you're going to write your wish list on one page, and other obligations you got to put into your calendar. Then on a separate clean page, you're going to put down your actual meetings and obligations that you had written down for the day, where they belong on the calendar. Like if you're in meetings 12 to 4, that's all blacked out. We can't put anything in there, right? And then you're going to look at that. You're going to look at your actual obligation day list, and you're going to see where's the open space to fit in my top priority tasks and whatever else I can fit from my wish list. And what's going to happen is that wish list is going to turn into an actual realistic plan, because you're going to realize it's not realistic for me to put everything on my wish list into today. And you're going to stop having those days where you plan like 40 things to do and you only get done 5 and then you feel like a failure. We're going to actually have our meetings blocked out, our obligations blocked out, and then with what's left, we put in our top priority things that are broken down into 30-minute time blocks and whatever else we can fit that's top priority from our wish list. So you're going to combine it, or you're going to end up basically with a realistic plan of your top priority tasks, your obligations, and any extras you can fit. And what happens is, if you find that you always never have time for the top priority tasks aligned with your goal, then it might be time to look at how can you shift some things? How can you let go of some things? So give yourself a couple warnings here. Give yourself some buffer room, meaning if this is your first time batching or actually planning a realistic plan day, give yourself extra room for things to take you longer than you actually think they're going to take you. Make sure you're also planning for things that could get in the way. If you know, at least once or twice a week, your kid, or a day or an hour that your kids come in and have questions or need help with something, make a little extra room for that. Add the buffer room. Also, don't use time batching and planning against yourself. I see so many people do this, and then they don't want to plan, and then they, end up just being very loosey-goosey with their time and not getting to anything ever, right? And it feels like this cycle. So versus if you're using this realistic plan to learn about yourself and how long things take you, and strategically kind of use it as data to keep getting better at batching your time, it's going to empower you, and you're going to be able to get more done. You're going to be able to honor your commitments because you know actually how long things take you. So those are just a couple bonus tips. I do want to invite you, now that you've created your plan, to get it reviewed. So if you want to get your own protocol or weekly basics reviewed and get some feedback on it, you can book a free call at calendly.com/Hailey Rowe-coach/30 minutes, or 30 min, I should say. You can also just DM me on Instagram if you need that link. I'm at Hailey_Rowe. And I also have a free gift for everybody here if you want to go through my weekly planner system that we kind of brushed on a little bit, but it goes into more detail. So if you go to HaileyRowe.com/time planning, all one word, you can get the free weekly planning system. It's going to teach you how to work smarter, not harder, by putting your result producing activities first. It's going to help you with my top 5 reflection questions to help you stay consistent and not let perfectionism stop you. And it's also going to help you with prioritizing and creating a calendar that you love. So I hope this was useful. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. And if it's really helpful for you, I'd really appreciate if you share it and or leave a written podcast review. This tells the podcast sites that our show is useful, and it will be promoted to more people that way. Thanks again.